I would say the American dream is the ability to level up your circumstances any way which you want to. You're not constrained by life circumstances. If you're born in a down on your luck situation, you have the opportunity to level up the game and make something of yourself with no barriers.
I've heard that a lot of people who have struggled in their own country have come to America. They've had limited knowledge, limited skill, limited English speaking language, and become millionaires. And a huge portion of that population many years ago ended up in New York. They came in, they worked hard, and they started to live a dream that just was not possible anywhere else in the world. One of the richest men on the planet, even still today, and he's been dead for over 100 years, was Andrew Carnegie. He came to America and he amassed a wealth of more than $400 billion in today's money. And I believe that America is still a place that you're going to be able to do that in the years ahead because there's such a big society of consumers.
That is very true.
Huge population, a huge purchasing ability. One thing I learned many years ago, it's an old statistic. It probably comes back from the 80s or 90s, but they were saying one of the highest portions of self-made millionaires actually came from dry cleaners. And so these people were coming off the farms in the Midwest region, coming to the cities and starting dry cleaning businesses. And they were becoming self-made millionaires from being a dry cleaner. And I can see that happening. What else is the American dream? What is it for you?
For me personally, my parents did come over from another country in the 70s. I was born here, first generation. And I remember the stories of living with a host family when they first come over, joining the military to better their situation and having to move around a lot and living on bases where, situations weren't always ideal for a small family and struggling to buy their first house that was falling apart, but they didn't care. It was a mansion. It was the first thing they ever owned, and it was the best thing they ever owned. And just the adventures that they went on to accomplish a much better life for them by American standards wasn't all that great, but for them it was like they were the kings of their castle. And that really struck home to me that you can build so much for yourself in this country, and there's nobody that's going to stop you as long as you're obviously not breaking the law.
And for you, what was it like being the daughter of a military family? For you to move around from place to place. My mum, her father was in the Air Force, so she was used to moving around the country. What was it like for you?
I remember a lot of time in the back seat of the car. This was before, restraints were mandated and all of that. I would just put the seats down and roll around in the back with my blanket and my toys and have fun. And my world was very small. It was just the three of us. So it didn't matter where we went or where we were because I had the two of them. So it was just a lot of adventuring for me. And I liked it.
My mum would drive from Darwin, which was the very northern livable part of Australia, all the way down to New South Wales. And that type of drive, you could be in excess of 4,000 kilometres, almost driving from east coast to west coast in America. And they used to live in some very poor conditions. She talked about them living in caravans, living in homes where there was a gap between the earth and the building, and the mice would come in. And then she'd also talk about living in Air Force houses, which weren't always in the most glamorous places. But she too was a single child at that stage, and she'd travelled all around the country. And so that definitely builds different characteristics. For you, what did you learn about yourself, and how did those experiences influence what you're doing today?
I learned to be very independent. And I also learned that nothing stays the same. The only thing you can depend on is that everything's going to change. And when I was in my jobs, that was always very apparent when I worked in corporate America. But when I realized that the one thing that never changed from job to job to job was that I was always working for somebody else. And it finally occurred to me that maybe I would have a better opportunity to build something for myself if I was working for myself. Neither of my parents really had that entrepreneurial spirit. My dad, a little bit, he tried, but it didn't really take off. But I really liked the opportunities that opened up once I realized that I could be in business for myself.
For people who want to live that American dream, what are a couple of the things that prevent them from living it to the fullest?
We live in a society where everybody is competing with the Joneses, and a lot of people live well outside their means. They're not financially responsible, even though consumerism is the name of the game over here. So it is very hard to start a business when you don't have that kind of support and that financial backing, to really not only begin, but also keep it running. It does require some financial savvy and some planning, some support from maybe a loved one or parents, things like that, to really get your feet under you before your business takes off and you start making an income.
Mm. A lot of our audience and people who watch this are either just coming into their 40s or still in their early 40s. And there's one thing that they probably know intuitively is that when you hit your 40s, traditionally, this should be the highest income earning years of your life. And the reason why that is because you've been in your careers for at least 10 to 15 years, if not 20 now. And you're starting to get highly skilled. You've got all the knowledge, you've got all the skill, and you should start to see some of your highest paychecks. But there's something on the other side is that a lot of 40-year-olds have a very low net worth. So it still feels like they're starting from nothing. And a lot of people under the age of 40 have a net worth of far less than $10,000. And so
Mm-hmm.
for them, there's a lot of fear. Do I just stay in this safe job? It's predictable. I know I'm going to get my paycheck. There's no fear. But if I take the leap and I start my business or even attempt to grow it, I might lose what's taken me 20 years to get. And I'm afraid that I'm already 40 and do I go back to zero again if this doesn't work?
Mm-hmm.
So from what you see, what else prevents them from living that dream?
Well, clearly, fear is a big one. And the scarcity mindset is also a big part of that as well. You're so afraid of losing what you got. One thing that somebody said to me when I was first starting out, it kind of woke me up a little bit. And it sounds trite, I know, but it really sunk in for me. And he said to me, "You can't fire yourself." So when you're in business for yourself, you're in the most secure job ever. You know you're not going to get fired. You know you're not going to get laid off. Your department isn't going to get downsized. Nobody has any control over that except you. It's really empowering to realize that, because people have this illusion that a job is safe, that they have this steady paycheck, that things are going well, and they're going to just continue into oblivion and ride off into the sunset with that big fancy car. You don't know what's around the corner. You don't know that that business isn't going to get bought out by somebody else who doesn't feel the need for middle management anymore. You don't know that, the company isn't going to get hit by a recession or make some bad financial decisions because they have a new owner. There's so many things that can go sideways in a regular job as well. And there's no promise for tomorrow. The only one you can depend on is yourself. And if you're the source of your own paycheck, that's the most secure job you're ever going to have.
I like that. I've never heard it like that before. Well, I'm going to start to sleep in if I can't get fired.
There you go.
There is so much pressure to perform in our own businesses, and a lot of people, sometimes they just have that niggling insecurity that they're not good enough. But there's so many resources they have over the years. And one of the beliefs we have is that the person with the most resources controls the situation. And if you think about it, all the things you've learned from your first job up until now, you've got all the knowledge and the skills to start a business. You have enough just to start. And once you start, then all you need to do is to maintain. And I think a lot of people worry that they don't know enough to start. But secretly, I know a lot of people go to work and they think they know more than the boss. And sometimes it's true. They do know it.
Yes, it is.
And that should be enough to cross that line.
Yes.
So to be able to cross that line, what can people do today to get another step towards living their American dream?
So I think the biggest thing is imposter syndrome is definitely real. It definitely doesn't feel like you know enough ever. Trust me, we all feel that way. And I think the biggest thing is to start hanging out with entrepreneurs. Really hearing the stories of the people around you. Yes, you can read all the books, and there's a million of them out there that can help you establish what are the things you need to do, the top 5 things, and all of those wonderful anecdotes that they have out there to train you how to be an entrepreneur. But the real thing is, you just got to understand that none of us know what the heck we're doing. We are just getting through each day the best we can and taking each situation in the most honest way we can. Because at the end of the day, you've done your best. And that's all anybody can do. So when you feel like your boss is being unreasonable and you don't understand why they're asking for something because you know that it could be done another way, in a simpler way, a more efficient way, or that the numbers don't really mean all that much, it's not going to matter. What really matters is the culture and the heart of the people that you work with. And you start to feel that disconnect with the direction that the company is going in, that's a sign. That's your body telling you it's time for you to start making your own decisions. You already are.
A lot of people know that their gut instinct is important. They know they should be listening to it. They know it's right. But the head brain gets in the way of the gut brain and they start
Mm-hmm.
to justify it. They start to try to make something that's not logical logical. And then they decide with the head brain rather than the gut. And then down the track, they say, oh, I should have listened to my gut.
Mm-hmm.
And as entrepreneurs, and you can be an entrepreneur inside an organization. One of my uncles had a very successful business in America. He came from Taiwan. He landed in America and he didn't speak English. He learned English. He started to work and he built a business with 500 employees. And he turned his knowledge into $1 billion business. And he did that inside of 20 years.
Good for
And he
him.
listened to his gut. He trusted himself to get to that next level. Could have he done that in Taiwan? Never. He could only do it in America. But he had to learn to trust himself. Didn't matter about the language. You can learn that. Didn't matter about the skills. You can pick that up. But he just really trusted himself.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that what you're saying there, we've all got these insecurities and it's okay. Nobody's going to roast you for having those. I met a gentleman years ago and he said, Daniel, I'd love you to come and work with me and coach the business, but I'm afraid by hiring you, then I've got to admit that there's some things in my business that aren't working. And if I do invite you into the business, you're going to see what's happening behind the curtain. Now, he was losing $100,000 a month. And because of that insecurity of being judged, he thought that even a coach was going to judge him. And so he was afraid to ask for help. But once he asked for help and somebody else came in and had a look, the problem was solved almost immediately. And so I think as part of living this American dream or wherever you are in the world right now, the first thing is you've got to get comfortable with asking for help. And you've got to realize that asking for help is not a weakness. It's actually a sign of strength. And you look at the entrepreneurs, most entrepreneurs are very good at saying, can I get some help? Can I get some coaching? Can I get some advice? Can I get some support? Can you give me a referral? Could
Yes.
you vouch for me? I don't know what I'm doing. I want to come to your program. I want to buy your book. I want to listen to your podcast. They're good at asking for help. And I think if everybody can take away that trait, that's going to get them another step towards living their American dream.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100% agree. I have a friend of mine, brilliant, brilliant woman. She was working in corporate, and she was starting to feel that pressure of not fully appreciating everything that the boss was taking the company, the direction that the company was going in, and she decided to break out on her own. And the reason she had that strength and empowerment to do that, even though she was scared out of her mind, was because she was hanging out with a group of entrepreneurial women and men who all said that they had that same experience. And you cannot be an island as an entrepreneur. You have to find your tribe. You have to find people who can plan with you, who can mentor you, who can guide you, but also who can cry with you, because you're going to cry. You're going to have those bad days where you feel like, why did I do this to myself? And then you're going to have to call somebody to talk you off a ledge. But that's the whole point of the journey, is to learn about yourself, grow stronger, make mistakes. You're going to make every single one in the book, and you're supposed to. That's how you learn. That's how you grow. And that's how you get to who you're supposed to become.
Mm. I love that word journey. I always thought it was a destination. And I was more frustrated because I never arrived at that destination, whether it been in advertising, in marketing, I didn't get to the destination. In sales, I didn't get to the destination. I always seemed to get the result for the customer, but there was this invisible destination I thought I was always going to get. And when I got there, I was going to be happy. But I realized that after speaking to a lot of entrepreneurs, it was about getting happy on the journey. And if you're happy on the journey, you're going to welcome the ups and you're going to accept the downs. And you're going to realize through those down times, you're actually going to learn so much stuff. My clients always say, Daniel, we've learned so much more from failure than from success, because the ones who get success immediately, they get that beginner's luck. They're the ones who suffer the most imposter syndrome. They're like, I don't even know what I did. I just opened the business and now it's flooded with business, but I've got no idea what's going on. Where the people who have a lot more challenges, what I've seen, yes, they do have a lot of fear, but they don't feel like imposters. Okay, I've done my time. I've put the energy in. I've made the mistakes. I finally know what doesn't work. And now I've got to what does work. They've already got that peace of mind. They got that happiness. You know, my daughter, she turned 11 just 2 days ago, and we're on our way to school. And I said to my daughter, I said, what is it that you wish for? What do you want for your 11th year? She said, well, Dad, I want 3 things. I said, okay, what's the first one? She says, I want all of my grades to be above 90%. And I said, okay, well, what do you want? She said, I want grades at 91% and above this year. Now, the interesting thing was, Julia, is that for her 10th birthday, she set a goal to have grades above 90%. And so her grade mark average was 92. And now she's ready to stretch. And she's just going an extra 1%. She's not trying to go from 90 to 99 because she knows that that's just not possible, because you've got to learn along the way. Like every business owner, you're going to learn along the way. So she's just gone to 91%. And I said, beautiful. Well, we're going to help you get there. I said, well, what's the second thing? She said, Dad, I wish that the band Blackpink gets back together. And I said, good. That's a good wish. And I said, what's your third wish? And she said, Dad, I want to be happy. And I said, that's what you want? She says, Dad, I want to be more happy. She says, I know I'm a bit of an angry bird, but I want to be happy. And I thought, how incredible is that? She wants grades are above 91%. She's already got 90. Now it's just a little stretch. How much further can I go? She wants something for somebody else. She wants the band to get back together. And she wants to be happy. And my wife and I were talking about that. And I said, I would have never have thought like that at age 11. But I said, it's fascinating. All of my clients who are into their 40s, they want what the 11-year-old wants. And we've got to get back to that simplicity, be happy on the journey. So by the time I picked her up from school, there was an announcement on the internet that Blackpink got back together. And she said to me, she said, Dad, my wish has already come true. And I said, what is it? She said, Blackpink got together. And I said, see, baby, anything you want, you can have. And so now
That's
she
amazing.
starts her 11th year knowing that her wishes can come true. And I think that's the American dream, isn't it? That your wish comes true.
That's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. What a special little girl. You must be so proud.
I'm extremely proud. And one of the decisions that I made, and I used to have a family business. So I always worked in family business. I had my own business. And then I worked in corporate. And I loved corporate, but it wouldn't have given me the flexibility in my life that I have now. And so after leaving corporate, my wife had an accident on an aircraft and she was left with a permanent disability. So she lost her income and then she fell pregnant and she almost miscarried 3 times. And then she lost her job. So we weren't necessarily choosing to become entrepreneurs at 32. We were forced
Mm.
into it. So we had to jump and we jumped ship. And so we went through the trials, we went through the errors, and then my son was being born in 2017. And I'd spent so much time building my business that I was away from my country, which is Taiwan. And I'd travel around the world and work and I'd hustle. And it was the most lonely experience. I'd be in the best hotel feeling lonely. I'd be sitting in business class feeling lonely. I'd be sitting in the business class lounge feeling lonely. And all I wanted was to be with my family. And it kind of reminded me of the book, The 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. A lot of people are trying to chase this dream through corporate or building a big business that if they actually realized they could actually have it now without exhausting themselves. So I said to my wife, that's it. No more travel, no more international trips, no more chasing the business globally. As soon as my son's born, I'm staying home. And so since 2017, I've worked from home. And
That's
that was the
awesome.
flexibility. Yes, I did go without things. I went without a lot of things, but I never went without the happiness and the joy and the
Yes.
pride of raising beautiful children. So now that my son's 6, I said, okay, guys, game's changed. Dad's traveling again. I've made my contributions. I got to get out of their house. It's too loud.
Oh, yeah.
There was not enough noise. Now there's too much noise. Now I need some different peace of mind. Yes, so very proud. Thank you.
That's wonderful.
And that's what we
That's
want.
one of the beauties. You can design the life you want, and that is the biggest happiness. That is the freedom of the entrepreneurial journey and building that freedom with a business. You don't just want to have a job for yourself. You don't want to just make a office for you to sit in and do the 9 to 5 grind. You want to have that freedom to travel or not travel, sleep in till noon or not, whatever makes you happy. You now have the opportunity to discover that and to really live on your own terms. And that's a scary thing for a lot of people because they don't know what that's going to look like yet. It can be very illuminating for some marriages. Things will transition, definitely. But ultimately, that's how you find your happiness by shaking things up a little bit.